In progress.
hear me?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, right. Good afternoon. I see only 22 students. Others are yet to join, it seems. But until they join, shall we do a small recap on what we have done through a small activity that I'm sharing with you, right? I think the early birds might get that chance to go have a look at that activity. Now, these are not my own activity. These are adapted from Larsen and Freeman. Okay, I told you when it comes to English language teaching methods. So we are covering unit 2, English language teaching methods, and Larsen and Freeman, Richards and Rogers. Those are the books that you can refer to. So this activity, I actually did not take the whole thing because they are very lengthy ones. But for you to actually very important ones, I have taken here. So can you see the Word document that I'm sharing with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Now this is what, okay? You all have to see these classroom observations. This is a grammar translation method class, okay? And they have made, Larsen and Freeman, they have made classroom observations. And you all have to actually look at the classroom observation and tell why that happens in a grammar translation method classroom. We call it underlying principles of grammar translation method. Now, all these observations they have made, I have put 7. They are from grammar translation method classroom. They have observed that this happens there. So you all have to tell me why that happens. You know what grammar translation method is and its underlying principles. I will give you an example. For example, the first one, the class is reading an excerpt from Mark Twain's Life on the Mississippi. The class is reading an excerpt from Mark Twain's Life on the Mississippi. Can you tell me why this happens in the GTM class? We call them underlying principles. Can one of you give it a try? Now that it is a grammar translation method classroom and the class is reading an excerpt from Mark Twain's Life on the Mississippi. You can tell me 2
On
things.
literature?
Definitely, yes. The material, what is your name, Putra?
I'm Sandhini here, ma'am.
Sandhuni, yes. Sandhuni, you're correct. One thing is, in the grammar translation method classroom to teach English, they use literary pieces, right? Because this is the very first method introduced. Previously, it was used to taught Latin and Greek to read literature by the scholars. Now, English is taught. They use the same method. That was the mistake. They use literary pieces. So very good, Sandhini. And you can think of another underlying principle here for them to read an excerpt from Mark Twain's life. What skills are given emphasis or focus is on what skills? Reading and
writing.
That is why they are reading. No? In teaching language, they focus more on reading and writing. They neglected listening and speaking. So you can say underlying principles. One thing is the skills focused are reading and writing. The second is they use literary pieces as learning materials. Very good. So second one, can one of you read the second one quickly?
Students translate the passage from English to L1.
Students translate the passage from English to L1. Quickly tell why. What's the underlying principle?
The translating is goes
Translation,
in the role of the student, madam. So they are using L1. I mean, the second language.
Yeah, that's the main technique in grammar translation method. Am I right?
Yes.
That is the main technique in grammar translation method. L1 to L2, L2 to L1, they translate. So that is the main technique used in the grammar translation method. So that is the underlying principle. And that is why it happens in GTM. Okay, can you read the third one quickly? We are not going to waste a lot of time on this. I will discuss quickly in 2-3 minutes. Can you read the third one?
The teacher asked in L1 if the students have any questions. The students' questions are answered in L1. It's
Yeah.
because they are for communication purposes, they use mother tongue.
Yeah, classroom instructions were given in L1 and L2 is taught using L1, that in GTM method. So the role of L1 has a big role to play. Classroom instructions and to teach L2, the GTM method used L1. Very good. So another student, number 4, quickly we will go.
Students write out the answers to reading comprehension questions. They also, madam, comprehension is one of the techniques in grammar GTM.
Definitely, yes. Reading
So,
is the reading and writing are focused. Comprehension questions is technique, right? Dekama, you can say. Now, good, very good. Just who is reading number 5 then?
if a wrong answer is given by a student, the teacher herself gives the correct answer. There, madam, error correction is done by the teacher, and teacher has the right answer. Errors are failures, so like in GTM.
Yeah, and teacher
And
dominating
teacher-centered.
classroom. Teacher dominating classroom. Students are passive listeners. They are empty vessels. Because of that, the teacher thinks, and the traditional minded teachers, authoritative teachers in traditional minded classroom, errors are not actually, errors are corrected by the teachers. Very good. So number 6 quickly.
Students translate new words from L2 into L1. Their madam skills are focused reading and writing, and also the grammar and the vocabulary. So teaching a second language, vocabulary is transformed words. That's it.
Yeah, and especially vocabulary is taught through glossaries. In glossaries, you can see the mother tongue equivalent, right? Okay, got it?
Yes.
Vocabularies are taught using glossaries in which the mother tongue L1 equivalent is given. That is the exact answer there. Very good. So number 7, what is it?
Students are taught the grammar rules. The main goal is to teach the grammar rules. Teacher delivers the instructions and the rules. So
Teacher explains the grammar rule
Yes,
and give practice activities. Very good. Okay. The role of grammar. Now the direct method, this time quickly, who is taking the first one? This is now the direct method, not GTM class. This is a direct method class. So why these things are happening? These are the observations. Can you quickly read the first one? Yeah. Nobody wants.
the students read aloud a passage on United States geography. They also, madam, kind of literature pieces, foreign language.
The students read aloud a passage on United States geography. What is your answer, Puta?
Authentic materials are used.
Definitely, yes. Rather, the authentic materials, you can say materials related to travel and trade in direct method. Okay. What do you say? Materials related to travel and trade, because language was wanted. English as a link language was wanted to use in travel and trade. Okay. The other thing is loud reading is one of the main techniques. Am I right?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, that you have to mention. Loud reading is one of the main techniques of the direct method, and materials related to travel and trade. are used in direct method. Very good. Then the second one, who is going to read?
The teacher points to a part of the map after each sentence is read. One reason is materials related to travel and trade, and the other one is, ma'am, they use the realia.
Realia.
Picture cues are
That
there
is
to
it. Yeah, you're correct there. I explain it further because you can't use L1. L1 is prohibited. Because of that, the teachers have to use realia and visual aids in the classroom. Students are given opportunities to see and hear, because otherwise you have to use L1. L1 is prohibited. So visuals, realia, they are very important in getting them to understand the meaning. That is what. Very good. Number 3, you got the point. Yeah. Number 3.
The teacher uses the target language to ask the students if they have a question. The students use the target language to ask their questions.
Yeah. What is it?
That
L1 is prohibited.
Yeah.
First one is L1 is prohibited.
Prohibited.
So the classroom activities, instructions, everything, they use only L2. That is most important. Target language. Anithaka tamai, the main technique in direct method is questions and answers. Am I right? Loud reading and questions and answers. So everything happens in L1 because L1, L2 because target language, because L1 is prohibited. So number 4, quickly.
The teacher answers the students' questions by drawing on the blackboard or giving examples. Here, the teacher is not supposed to translate or explain, but has to demonstrate.
Very good. You're correct there. Very clear. Number 5.
The teacher asks questions about the students. Students ask each other the questions. Rather than the GTM, the students' interaction is much implemented here.
Yeah, and question and answer. Question and answer is one of the main techniques. Very good. Interaction matters. Very good. Interaction is promoted. Number 6.
The teacher works with the students on pronunciation of some words. The correct pronunciation is kind of a technique, ma'am.
Very good. Pronunciation was given emphasis and it's focused. Because of that, pronunciation practice is very common in direct method class. Okay, very good. Number 7.
The teacher corrects a grammar error by asking the students to make a choice. Madam, grammar rules are not to explicitly told that teacher elicits the rules, not just explain.
Yeah, here grammar error.
Error correction.
Yeah, it's a grammar error. Yeah, error correction is done not by the teacher, but self-correction is actually promoted. So self-correction, you have to give an option. Rather, is it Colombo or Candy? Right? Like that, you give them options. Then they actually give the correct answer. So here they are talking about not grammar, but grammar errors. So errors are actually is not, teacher doesn't correct the errors, but get the students to actually self-correct by giving them choices, okay, by facilitating, by asking probing questions like that. Okay, number 8.
The teacher dictates a paragraph about United States geography. That means the dictation technique.
Definitely, yes, one of the main techniques in the classroom, direct method. Very good. So number 9.
all of the lessons of the week involve United States geography, that is authentic materials, ma'am?
Very good. Rather, materials related to travel and trade. Okay. Here I have another one, that is audiolingual method. Now, audiolingual method we discussed that day. Audiolingual method, it should come up. Audiolingual method, do we think that we have time to do that, or you can on your own do that? What do you think? Can you do it on your own? We'll quickly discuss then. The teacher introduces a new dialogue. Why? The teacher introduces a new dialogue. Why?
Drilling.
Actually speaking, dialogue practice is one of the main techniques in the classroom. Can you remember? Role plays. Read number 2. The language teacher uses only the target language in the classroom. L1 is not prohibited, but not actually entertained. Though like in direct method, L1 is not prohibited, but it's not entertained, Because of that, there is the L target language use is maximized. Okay. Number 3, actions, pictures, or realia are used to give meaning. Otherwise, actions, pictures, or realia are used to give meaning. This is, of course, otherwise is not needed. Actions, pictures, or realias are used because L1 is actually minimized. The language teacher introduces the dialogue by modeling in 2 times. She introduces the drills by modeling the correct answers. Another time, she corrects mispronunciation by modeling the proper sounds in the target language. You can say here, repetition is a technique, drilling is a technique, and at the same time, teacher is a role model for the students to imitate. And pronunciation is important and corrected. And teacher is the role model for pronunciation. The students repeat each line of the new dialogue several times. Repetition or drilling is one of the main techniques. The students stumble over one of the lines of the dialogue. The teacher uses a backward build-up drill with this line. Different types of drilling techniques are used, and backward drilling is one of the drilling techniques used in the audiolingual method class. The teacher says very good when the students answer correctly. Who can actually talk about this?
Positive reinforcement, madam.
Positive reinforcement. Why positive reinforcement, dear? Theory of language learning is behavior.
Behavior.
Theory of language learning
Helps to develop correct
behaviorism.
habits.
It definitely is. So we have to promote habit formation, correct habits. You can actually promote correct habit formation in language learning by giving them rewards and reinforcement. They all are concepts related to behaviorism, the theory of language learning in audiolingual method. Okay, that is the answer. Is it understood?
Yes.
Is it understood? Yes. Now
Yes.
we'll go to the next one, 8. New vocabulary is introduced through lines of the dialogue. Vocabulary is limited. New vocabulary is introduced through the lines of dialogue. That means language is taught in context. What is it? Language is taught in context. So the dialogue is a context. So in a dialogue, you have the patient and the doctor. So you can see a context. No, they are not isolated sentences. So that is why vocabulary is introduced through lines of the dialogue, because language is taught in context. That is the underlying principle. Number 9, students are given no grammar rules. Grammatical points are taught through examples and drills. Grammar is taught inductively in ALM, and they believe that theory of language is structuralism. We discussed that. Here you can talk about it. Number 9. theory of language learning is behaviorism, but here theory of language, what it is all about a language. So theory of language is structuralism. That means knowing a language means knowing its rules or structures. So they believe that there are limited number of structures. So you give them actually practice to these structures. So here you can talk about structuralism as the theory of language. So grammar rules, grammatical points are important, and they are presented in dialogues, and they are drilled. Because theory of language learning is behaviorism, habit formation. So you can, number 9 is an opportunity for you to actually discuss both theory of language as structuralism and theory of language learning as behaviorism. Okay, take all these things into your mind for the exam purpose. Number 10, the supermarket alphabet game and a discussion of American supermarkets and football are included. You have to see that culture of that language is actually exposed to the learner. Culture of that language is exposed to the learner. Now, supermarket alphabet game and the American supermarkets and football, so they are from their cultures. So through their, to teach their language, you actually use material related to their culture. Because you have to know the culture to learn the language better. You can't be an alien to that culture and learn that language. That's the belief. So for you to learn their language, you have to know their culture, because then through the materials that you use, you expose their culture to the second language learners. So that's the idea about audiolingual method. Is it Greek or it's understood by you? I really want you to respond to me, then I can actually start today's work. Is it understood?
Yes, ma'am, understood.
Study කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා පැහැදිලිද? Somebody's background noise. I think it's Krishna Fonseca. Krishna. Please. What's this, Appa? What's this? I think it's Krishna. Okay, and then now, I have given the some of you to actually come and talk about some topics, 2-minute topics. What are the topics given and who are they?
Madam, deductive and inductive methods. So that's
I can actually mute this person. I can't mute now. I can remove. If it is really difficult, I will remove, otherwise mute. Okay. Right. Somebody talk to me about the presentations that I asked you to be prepared. Who is that? Have I asked you to come prepared to talk about some topics? Normally I used to do that. Did I ask you? Hello, did I ask you?
Ma'am, regarding deductive and inductive approaches.
Yeah. Who is,
Madam, I'm Aisha.
Yeah.
I lost my connection. I'm really sorry. Yes, madam. The homework was you asked us to prepare a small lesson plan to, the same
Right, okay.
deductive and
How
inductive.
to teach that grammar point using deductive approach and how to teach that grammar point using inductive approach, right?
Yes.
So who is going to actually present now?
Shall I do, madam? I'm Aisha.
Yeah, right. Do you have a document to share?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think I'm making you a co-host. Yes, now actually you can share your document and we will have a look at that and I will explain. So it's a learning opportunity for the others, right? Not a waste of time. Okay, let's see what she has got to do. You go as 12340. What's your name?
I'm sorry, madam, I didn't get it.
You go as user co-host, Kela. What's your name?
I'm Ayesha. Ayesha.
Yes, Aisha. Yes. Can you please share?
Yes, madam. So here, madam, I've selected grammar lesson here using punctuation marks. Under that, in grade, can you hear me, ma'am?
Do you think punctuation marks is a grammar lesson? Do you think that punctuation marks, it's a grammar lesson? Can somebody else answer this question?
Mechanics of writing.
Yeah. And Aisha, don't get
Yes, ma'am.
discouraged. This is actually, we are actually discussing now.
Okay.
Aisha, are you a teacher?
Yes, madam.
Where do you teach?
Dharmaloka Vidyalaya.
So you are a government teacher? You're
Yes, ma'am.
working in a government school?
Yes,
Have
ma'am.
you gone through the TIMS, Teachers
Yes, ma'am.
Instructional Manuals?
No, madam, the thing was, I just selected this lesson. I'm really sorry for that.
Yeah, I will actually, it's okay. Atharama, you're very good because you wanted to be prepared. I want to listen to you also for a while, but I give you the explanation. Otherwise, it's misleading.
Yes.
We teach language, putting them into 8 main competencies, right? The 4 macro, the 4 micro. The first day I think that I talked to you about this, Stella. Aisha, don't get discouraged. Okay?
No, madam, no.
Yeah, mistakes happen. It's okay. Now, we have 4 main skills. Listening, speaking, reading, writing. We have 4 micro skills or elements. Mechanics of writing, pronunciation, grammar and vocabulary. So actually punctuation comes under mechanics of writing. That is first competency. Competency 1, mechanics of writing. Or no, competency 2. Competency 1 is the sound system, right? Sound system. Competency 2 is mechanics of writing. Aisha, can you tell me why did you actually choose that lesson? Why did you choose it?
Thing was, madam, last week I did that in the classroom, and I'll
Right.
move the plan B, madam, because I was taken that reported speech lesson.
That is what? That is, there you are correct. Okay? There you are correct because when it comes to reported speech, punctuation matters, right? But you have to tell us this is reported speech. The component of this reported speech is punctuation. Then you can share your document once again and go on. Because you have actually given me the wrong kind of understanding. You didn't say that it's reported speech, but
No,
you
madam.
said
No,
reported
no,
speech
madam.
is yes, and one component of reported speech may the use of punctuation marks. Right. Now tell.
Anyways, madam, the lesson is based on this punctuation marks, the comma, and here also I'm going to teach the students this part only. That is to separate items in a list. And here in the deductive approach, I'm going to deliver all the rules and the rules, and I just explain them. And here also I have more examples, and I can get many of isolated sentences and give examples. And also in the
Right.
textbook.
That is, of course, once again, you're teaching only punctuation marks, no? So the
Yes.
comma to separate the items in a list, no?
Yes.
Not, that is actually, Puta, not grammar, okay?
Okay.
I
Madam,
understand it. Maybe this comes only in grade 6, no?
9, madam.
9, okay. Where is that direct indirect part?
That is in grade 10, madam. And 9, third term also
Right.
they are having that
Okay.
thing.
So you have made a mistake, but it's all
Yes.
right. Okay. I actually appreciate your interest and taking interest and doing this. So next
Yes,
time
madam,
you
I'll
can
do
do.
once again.
Yeah, that is it. You can do it again. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Aisha, for your actually interest in the word, though there's a small mistake in it. Is there anybody else? Is there somebody else is any? I think I asked 2 or 3 people to do that. So some
Ma'am.
people volunteered. Who is the other one?
Ma'am, I'm Sandhani here. I said I will do it, ma'am.
Yeah, I
Shall I
think
sh-
I have to make you with a co-host because then you can share. So everyone else should take interest in that because then we can actually have a discussion of this. Right, Sandhya? See whether you can share. Okay.
I have selected grade 8, degree of adjectives. So first, under the deductive approach, our main target of this approach is to teach grammar structures. So there the rule is directly presented and illustrated with examples. Finally, the next step is verification and application of rule. And finally, we go to the practice session.
Yeah,
So
practice also in isolated sentences, not in context.
thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, you have to
so-
say in isolated sentences, not in context, in deductive approach. Okay.
Okay.
Continue.
So there the adjectives are used to describe the qualities of people, things, places. So as I have shown you, that I will explain what is meant by a comparative degree adjective and give 2 examples separately as isolated examples. And then superlative adjectives also in the same manner. After giving what is meant by a superlative adjective, 1 example is given for them to understand that. Then under that, there are some rules that we want to learn. So one by one, specifically, I will explain. If it is ending with E, we just add R. If it is to make the comparative adjective, whereas we add ST to make the superlative adjective. So like that way, all the rules, all the 6 rules will be explained separately and while giving them the examples. Then finally, to make them practice with this thing, once they are familiar, then I will give some set of, first I will give some comparative adjectives to fill in the blanks, and then superlative adjectives, and finally the mixture of adjectives for them to grab the content properly. And to
They are
personalize-
isolated sentences as well.
Yes, thank
No
you, ma'am.
connection.
No connection, isolated sentences. So then that's how I'm going to make them thorough with the degree of adjectives under the deductive approach. So now we'll move to the inductive approach. There the students analyze the target structure and attempt to figure out the roles on their own. Examples are presented and let the students analyze the example, and they will generalize the role, and they will apply and they will practice it. So for that, first I will divide the students into 6 groups, and each group is given a set of adjectives following a rule. For an example, one group, they will receive the adjectives ending with Y and before that a consonant. And as well as those adjectives, comparative and superlative forms are also given. So then I'm asking them to categorize them into 3 groups according to a pattern, and let them to observe and come up with what they can tell about that adjective, how it is formed. So in that way, all the 6 groups, and let the students to present it in front of the class. And now they know what are the adjectives. And then after that, they know how to form they will know about the rules that they have used to make the adjectives. They will realize, they will analyze and get it. Then after that, I will ask one of the students to come front, and the other members of the class, I will ask them to make a sentence about that child using the adjective tall. Then I will ask another child to come front of the class, and now I will ask to compare their heights and make a sentence using the tall, but both the names should be included. Then finally, another 3, 4, 5 students are called, and I will choose the tallest out of all, and I will ask to make a sentence using about the tallest child, but without mentioning the word tall. Only that child's name should be mentioned, as well as all the others should, although the names are not there, that should be implied that all others are also considered. So that's how I thought that I will do it. Finally, then I will make them to to generalize that one, I will ask them to make some comparative and superlative sentences according to their their favorite fruits, comparing to things like that. I will generalize. Finally, I will go for the activity. They are in the grade 8 textbook, page number 57, where they can use comparative and superlative in the context. That's how I have planned. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. This is what's the grade, Sandhani? Very good. What's the grade? A very good attempt.
Grade
the
8, ma'am. Grade 8.
Grade 8. Okay. Now, others, before I give my feedback, can you actually talk about Sandhani's actually presentation? We'll make it a discussion today. Shall we discuss about her presentation? What is good? What is missing? Is it possible?
Madam, I think
Good, madam.
Pilini, you think that it's good?
Yes, madam.
You don't have to say it's good.
I think, madam, most of the points that she wanted to include had done nicely. Then students can understand easily the grammar points, and students will engage in the activities also, madam.
Yeah. Okay. Noticing was there, no? Activities
Yes,
to get the students to notice the grammar rule. Noticing, very important in inductive approach. It was there because she said that different patterns to be identified by the students themselves. That is what you wanted to tell, Pilini, about Sandhani's presentation.
Yes, madam. Yes.
Others, are there fault finders among you? Is there anything that you can tell about Sandhani's presentation? Good to talk, no?
Madam, at the same time, I think she used authentic situations, madam.
Okay, that is good, no? Getting them in front of the class and giving them some example. Okay, I agree with you, Philip. Then please, the others, there are about 75 students in my class now.
And in that inductive method, the teacher talk time is less and she has engaged with nicer
Can you speak up? Today my headphones are not with me. Can you speak up?
Madam, in that inductive method, according to her lesson, that is pretty much teacher talk time is less and the activity is much interested. Students are involved in each other so that the cooperation and the activity.
Right, okay. I agree that she has made it happen in the class, no? Because students are given activities to actually work with their friends and then to work it out, no? The grammar rule, right? You're correct.
And also, madam, in deductive method, so she has used very descriptive, very clear instructions. And they also
that is important, giving examples and explaining everything, no?
Yes.
Right, in the deductive approach also, she has done that. Okay. So any others to actually talk about Sandhani's presentation? Quickly, Puta, we have to get on to other today's work also. Anybody? It's always
She has used the maximum benefit from the class itself. That means rather than taking examples from videos or the articles, she has used students themselves.
Right, okay. I don't see that all the time. It doesn't have to be like that. You can make use of videos and all that also. But here she has made the classroom because it's very much appropriate. You have short that you can easily use classroom. What is available in the class, students and other objects. Yeah, I agree with you. That is also good. I have a small doubt here. Don't you think that the first part is okay? Formation of comparative and superlative degrees of adjectives. It's formation of the adjective, no? It's not how to use the comparative and the superlative, but you have to form the comparative degree and superlative degrees of adjectives. You have EREST device with the short words and adjectives, and you have the more and most device with the long adjectives, and you have miscellaneous also, irregular ones as well. So For that, you actually taught them in the deductive approach, you explained and you asked them to work it out also in the inductive. That's okay. But when it comes to how to use it, now, for example, the comparative degree of adjective is used to compare two things. And there's a special word that you use with the comparative degree of adjective, taller than. Superlative is used for a different purpose, to actually highlight one among many. So then the special word uses the before the superlative degree of adjective. So that, of course, in the deductive approach, I think it was missing, as I understood. Formation of superlative and comparative degree of adjectives, yes, very well done. But that how to use it is actually not explained in deductive approach. And there were no activity for that in the inductive approach. So maybe it's a very good class. Sadhuni's work is very much understood. And if it is a grade 8 class, I think that you don't have to teach both. Formation of superlative and comparative degree of adjective can be one lesson. And when to use comparative and when to use superlative and how to actually construct these sentences, it's a second lesson. So in doing that, you could have actually done a kind of a small, you did no classroom example. Sama is tall and taller than, and killer like that. And you could have actually presented it in a dialogue and all that. And you could have asked them to actually put the names of into the different columns, or separate them into different columns, which is a positive sentence, which is a kind of a comparative degree, which is the superlative degree sentence. There's a mix-up. So you could have asked them to separate them into 3 columns. Positive degrees in one, comparative degrees in another column, superlative in another column. And then they actually put them into that. And then you actually get them to look at the special words used. Something like that, if you have done before getting them to actually do the activity, I think it could have made a better one even for the average classroom. Did you get what I said?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Then after that, you can go to the rest, because it needs a lot of practice. We have to know the students see the sentences and put them into 3 different categories and learn, this is how these 3 types of sentences in degrees of adjectives are actually formed. So for that, you give them a classification activity. And then after classifying it, you get them to notice what special words and all that are there. For that, you can say underline the special words or whatever. Then only that you can get them to actually do the next activity, because otherwise it's not actually highlighted in the class, as I understand. But Sandhuni, this is a very good attempt. So I really appreciate your work. Okay, keep it up. So I'm always here to actually give you feedback. Okay, I have taken 45 minutes for the work. Is there any other student who promised to actually do this? To spend another 5 minutes on that and give feedback? No? Right. So I actually get into today's work. So today, I'm going to cover 2 things. One is, Unit 2, formal methods of teaching English language. Not grammar, English language, okay? There we have covered 3. That is direct grammar translation method, direct method, audiolingual method. And today I'm going to discuss total physical response, another method. Total physical response, okay? And from the overall grammar teaching part, an approach, now 2 main approaches we discussed. deductive approach and inductive approach. That is okay. But there are other approaches as well, which are very, which are recognized by the ELT or language teachers. That is three-dimensional approach to teach grammar. Apart from the two main as deductive and inductive, we have other approaches to teach grammar. Now, this approach is in vogue now, and that is termed as three-dimensional approach to teach grammar. So these are the main areas that I'm going to cover today. So what do you really want first? The total physical response from Unit 2, former methods, or teaching grammar, another approach, three-dimensional approach to teach grammar. Out of the two, which one is preferred first by you? You can tell me.
TPR.
TPR. Musliha says it's TPR. I will wait for the others also to 3 or 4 people give me your
TPR, madam.
TPR first. Okay, others?
That's TPR.
To me also TPR. Okay, let's see. No problem now. I can see that everybody wants to start with TPR. So I'm starting with TPR. Okay. So let me share the slides. Okay. TPR. Everyone has said TPR, so I'm sharing now. So look at this. The timeline first. Look at the timeline. We have discussed the grammar translation, direct method, audiolingual method. Now you can see, now silent way we are not discussing because you know it's not continuing to the present. Okay, it's not continuing to the present. Because of the no dotted lines, no continuation. So we will forget about that, the silent way, but we will go to total physical response. Even in the 21st century, it's being used. No? The dotted line says the continuation. So we will look at the total physical response as another method to teach English language, not grammar putte, right? English language. So total physical response, and it is very commonly referred to as TPR. TPR, okay? Right, let's see. This is also scientific method because the first scientific method is audiolingual method because it's grounded on theory of language and theory of language learning. Here, TPR also is a kind of a scientific method. It was introduced by James Asher in 1965. So James Asher is a psychologist. So, you know, when it comes to language learning, psychologists also have discussed, right, how to facilitate language learning, how to teach language and all that. So James Asher in 1965, and it became very popular in 70s and 80s, introduced this new method of teaching English language, that is total physical response, right? This was actually introduced being a psychologist after observing the language development taking place in young children. Young කියන එකෙන් අදහස් කරන්නේ තරුණ නෙමෙයි, right? Small children. Young children means small children. How language development happens. Now you think of the mother tongue, right? L1. You have seen the very little ones, how they learn language. Can one of you tell me how does it happen? Because James Asher was observing that. How do these young ones, little fellows, they learn language? So can you tell me how does it happen? If you have observed maybe your nieces, maybe maybe your own children, what is the process of actually learning that language?
Madam, repeating and imitating.
Sorry?
Repeating and imitating.
Repeating and imitating. Okay. Others? Others?
By listening first, madam, then
Speak
they
up, okay?
imitate.
Because I don't have my headphones today. Speak up. I
First,
couldn't
they
hear you.
will listen, madam.
Listening. By listening.
Yes. Then they
After
will
listening?
imitate.
Imitate. Okay. Agree. Then others?
According to their gestures and miming, madam.
Very good. Gestures and miming.
Yeah.
Gestures and miming. That is something there. Okay. You can add something more to this. Gestures and miming. They understand you. So, very good. So, let's see. According to James Asher, being a psychologist, he was observing how these young children, they learn their language. Okay. And there's a message. Observation. Okay. By observing. Agree. Then this is how it happens. According to Jai and Haynes, it's a language teaching method built around the coordination of speech and actions, which attempts to teach language through physical activity. Very important. Now you think of first language learning. Okay, vocab related with pictures. Okay, let's see. Now you think of a very young child, how actually he or she learns their first language, right? He listens to the others talking to him, right? To him, or he is exposed to the language and he's listening. But just because he was listening, he is not going to speak the words first. First, what happens? He actually understands. He or she understands. We call it comprehend. And then he responds to it physically. Before talking, right? Before talking, the young ones understand the language, listen, and then understand the language. And then he responds to that language physically. That means you ask them, come. They don't say,
By
I'm
nodding
coming.
heads, madam.
Sorry?
By nodding heads.
Yeah. Yeah, nodding head or whatever. They actually respond to you. Come, they come. Physically, they do that. But they don't speak the language yet. Okay? And then you say, right, go and keep it there. Then they observe you, they listen to you, they understand, comprehend what is told, and they respond to it physically. They go and keep it there, right? And thereafter, later on, they will start speaking as well. According to James Asher's observation, that is how the young ones, little children, learn their first language. So he thinks the same should be applied in second language context as well. So he thinks the classroom, because when it comes to first language, it's very early stages of learning that. But when it comes to second language, maybe once they start schooling, maybe as adults, right? They learn English, we don't know. But they are early language learners. They are novices. They are new to language learning. Age doesn't matter. Maybe first language in 1.5 years. But second language, maybe they are 7 years, 8 years, or maybe 21 years. It doesn't matter. But they have to go through the same process. They have to first listen, then comprehend, understand, then physically respond, and then only that they will be ready to actually speak the language. So James Asher says that is the safe zone. That is the safe zone for language learning. Safe zone, S-A-F-E, safe zone, Z-O-N-E. Safe zone means before they speak, there's some time for them to comprehend and dabble with it like language, and before they are ready to speak that language. That safe zone is very important in learning a language. Why not applying it to the second language context as well? Do you understand what I'm talking to you about? Or
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
want me to explain it again?
No.
Do you want me to explain it again?
Madam, can you please explain that safe zone? The
Safe
word.
zone, right? Okay. Wait.
Thank you, madam.
I will explain it again. I will type the word here, safe zone, right? Okay. Now you, James Ash, posed the physical response to teach second language, that is English. And he's a psychologist. He was a psychologist, so he wanted to actually observe children, that is scientific now, and see how the little ones, the young ones, learn their first language. Then this is the observation. This is what he saw. They saw little ones, they listen to the language first. Okay. Others talk to him and he's exposed to language and he listens. And then he comprehends. Comprehends means he knows the meaning of that. Comprehends. And once the language is comprehended, you think that the child speaks the language. No. Before speaking the language, he wants to dabble with that language a little more. How? He actually physically responds to that language. Right? He physically responds to that language. For example, dance, baby dance, they know dance means natanda. So then when you talk to the child, you can say, why don't you use your kind of body language? You mime it. And then the child comprehends it. Dance means natana. So that before the child speaks the word, you dance, that actually the child has to speak. No? Listening and speaking, no. There's a safe zone. The child actually makes use of that understanding and engage in physical activities. That means the child will also dance, right? The child will dance because the child knows dance means natana. The child dances. And that is a safe zone before he speaks the words. So after some time, maybe a few days, the child might use, you dance, dance like that. Dance, dance, because one word stage is also there. But before he speaks, he actually listens, understands, that means comprehends, and then physically responds to the language. That is a safe zone before he actually speaks the language. Is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. And you know this happens by the age of 1.5 or 2. But in the second language context, it can happen when they are 7 years or 8 years. Maybe when they are 19 years, 20 years. They are still very young to learning the language, second language. So why don't you bring this concept to the classroom? That is brought to the classroom by James Asher through the introduction of total physical response as a method to teach English as a second language. Okay. Now we'll go to the underlying principles of TPR. Main principles of TPR. So look at the main principles, the bio program, brain lateralization and reduction of stress. What are the three? I will explain it to you. What are the three? Can you tell me? The bio program,
Brain
Brain
lateralization,
lateralization,
Reduction
and
of
reduction of
stress.
stress. So these are the underlying principles of TPR. Okay. So let's see what is meant by the bioprogram. Right? Can one of you read this? Then I will explain it to you.
A reasonable hypothesis is that the brain and the nervous system are biologically programmed to acquire language, either the first or the second in a particular sequence and in a particular mode. The sequence is listening before speaking, and the mode is synchronized language with the individual's body. Asher, 1965. Brain is naturally predisposed to learn language through listening. Learners best internalize language when they respond with physical movement to language input.
Yeah. So the bioprogram, thank you very much. The bioprogram means, right? We are programmed. Humans are programmed, right? That's a blueprint. We are programmed to learn languages, acquire languages. It's programmed in us. Now we are programmed. There are many things like that. No, you're programmed to actually learn to walk. Likewise, that you're programmed to learn a language. There's a particular way of happening it, right? With each and every human being, that is how language learning happens. That is why we say it's programmed together. Everyone, each and every human being learns in that particular way. So that is why it's programmed. Bio means biologically programmed. Okay, biologically, physically, we are programmed to learn a language like that. So to learn a language, how? Right? First, to learn the language by listening. Right? Its brain is naturally predisposed to learn a language through listening. So that is one thing. So bioprogram means it's there in us, it's inbuilt in us. Each and every human being learns a language like that. So the first one is through listening. They listen first and then they actually learn the language. That is the first one. Second one is human beings actually they listen and then actually engage or respond to that language physically first. Physically first before they speak. So this is actually noticed or observed in young learners by James Asher. So you know, he actually says human beings are programmed to learn a language, first listening and then physically responding, comprehending next, and then physically responding and then to speak. Okay, that is one. So then you come to the next one, brain lateralization. The second underlying principle is brain lateralization. Can one of you read what is this? You know, you have heard of this. Our brain has two hemispheres, left hemisphere and right hemisphere. So they are responsible for different skills and abilities. So here we will read first and then see what is this brain lateralization as an underlying principle in TPR. Okay, one of you read.
This is when you develop language learning through the use of the right and left hemispheres of the brain. The left side of your brain is normally the language learning center, and physical movement is primarily controlled by the right hemisphere. Combining right and left leads to stimulation and optimal success.
Thank you. Very good. So this is brain lateralization means now you know our brain has right hemisphere, left hemisphere. So then if you are actually very dominant in your right hemisphere, you are a left-hander. If you are very dominant in your left hemisphere, you are a right-hander. And they have their own skills and abilities, right? So right and left hemispheres are combined here. Why? In TPR language learning. Why? The left side is normally for language learning, right? Left side, left hemisphere is the language learning center. And right hemisphere is the physical movement. All physical movement is controlled by the right hemisphere. So here in TPR, you get them to learn the language through the involvement of physical activities. So there's a kind of combination of right hemisphere and left hemisphere. Both are in actually action. Both are in action. Then it leads to stimulation and optimal success in language learning. So you learn language easily and better when you actually combine the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. In TPR, how the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere are combined? Because left hemisphere for language learning, right hemisphere is for physical activities. So you learn the language through physical activities, then the two hemispheres are combined. Once the two hemispheres are combined, it leads to better language learning. That is what is meant by brain lateralization. Understood or not understood?
Understood, ma'am.
Understood, ma'am.
Right. Now there's some music people. They have their own kind of dominant area, right? They are very musical and all that. So which part is actually dominant in them? Likewise, we will look at language learning and physical activities. Language learning center is the left side of your brain, left hemisphere, and right side is for physical activities. So they are combined in TPR because language is learned through engagement in physical activities in TPR. So it leads to better learning, optimal success. Okay, right. Then the third one, reduction of stress. Now the first one is bioprogram. Second one is brain lateralization. Third one is reduction of stress. Here, language learning should not involve any stress. Stress and negative emotions inhibit the natural language learning process. Physical movement and engagement help to minimize stress. So in TPR, lots of physical activities are given to the students before they start speaking, right? They are supposed to listen, comprehend, and physically respond in TPR before they speak. So that safe zone that you create before you get them to speak, that actually reduces their stress. Language is learned when the stress is actually reduced. When language learning is a stressful activity, it will not lead to effective language learning. So reduction of stress happens through physical movement, right? Because there's a safe zone before they speak that they can actually respond to language through physical activities. So they are the underlying principles of TPR. So this is applied in the TPR classroom to teach second language in the classroom. Okay. Any questions before I move on to the approach, theory of language and theory of language learning? Any questions? Any questions? Silence is killing, I always tell you. Do you have any questions?
No, madam.
Is it clear to you?
Yes,
Yeah.
madam.
So now we have to see how this is done in the TPR class to teach language. First, the students listen, then they comprehend, understand, then they physically respond, and then only that they will speak, right? As it happens in L1 learning among young children, as observed by James Asher. Okay, very good. Niroshana Yasamali, as you said, Simon says, is very good. They are actually used as techniques in second language classroom in the TPR. Very good. You're correct. Right. Then, as keeping aside the three underlying principles, now we have to look at the approach of language learning, language teaching in TPR, because starting from audiolingual method, the rest of the methods are grounded on theories. They're scientific. So we have to decide, we have to look at, we have to discuss what's the theory of language in this method, what's the theory of language learning in this method. Okay. So as we discuss in audiolingual method, the first scientific method, here also in total physical response, we have to know the theory of language and theory of language learning. There's no difference here. It is as much as similar to ALM, audiolingual method. So I don't have to explain it a lot because you know what we discuss in ALM. Theory of language is structuralism. It can be structuralism or communication. But here in ALM, here in total physical response, theory of language is structuralism. That means knowing a language means knowing its structure or the rules. If you know the rules, you know the language, right? So basically, they actually focus on structure of language. So they use structures to teach language because they think knowing a language is knowing its structure. So theory of language is structuralism. So you actually give them opportunities to learn the structure of the language. Okay. Theory of language learning is how do they learn a language? It can be behaviorism in one end, the other end it can be constructivism. Audiolingual method, it's behaviorism. Total physical response also behaviorism. That means learning a language through habit formation. Learning a language is habit formation. You can form habit through repetition or drilling. Okay. So the theory of language and theory of language learning, both are as same as audiolingual method in TPR as well. Are you okay with that or you don't understand? Before I move on to the next.
Understood.
What is it? Sorry?
Understood. Understood, ma'am.
Understood. Others?
It's understood, madam. Would you mind enlarging the screen, madam?
Okay. Right. So this is also a scientific method. Audiolingual method is the first scientific. TPR is the next method. And as they are scientific, they are grounded on theories, theory of language, structuralism in both ALM and total physical response, TPR. So that means knowing a language means knowing its structure. So the focus in the class is teaching them structures of the language. So they know the language. That's the assumption. Theory of language learning is behaviorism. That means how do they learn a language? Learning a language is habit formation. So learning a language is habit formation. They will learn the language through repetition and drilling and forming habits. Okay. So it's as same as audiolingual method. So then skills focused in TPR, total physical response, listening and speaking. Hardly they look at reading and writing. Okay. Vocabulary, very important. And grammar is not taught deductively, grammar taught inductively. That means you're not going to explain the grammar rules, but the grammar rules are presented for them to work out. Okay. So skills focus, listening and speaking, vocabulary and grammar, but inductive teaching of grammar. Now materials used. Here they say you don't need much material to teach English in the total physical response classroom. They say you don't need much materials to teach English in the total physical response classroom. But widely used materials can be really posters and props. I repeat, really are posters and props. Classroom objects like, teaching materials are not compulsory. I will tell you why. And for the very first lessons, they may not be used. Later on, they may use when the language becomes a bit advanced. As students progress in ability, the teacher may begin to use objects found in the classroom, such as furniture or books, and later may use words, charts, pictures, and realia. There are a number of specialized TPR teaching products available, including student kits developed by Azure as an interactive CD-ROM for students to practice with privately. So that, of course, you can search internet and see what kind of materials have been developed by James Asher, individual practice of TPR. Let's see. I will tell you now. I don't want you to actually read this to me. I will tell you this is how it happens. Right? The material used or the language is very particularly or basically taught through kind of, what kind of, now what do you call it now? It doesn't come to my mind the word for that. Now, go and open the door.
Commands, madam.
Sorry?
Imperatives.
Imperatives.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, imperatives. Yes, that's the word. As in instructions, demands, and commands. Yes, imperatives. Now that is how it happens in first language also. Come, go, eat, open the door. Then later on, open the door. Have your lunch. Like that, lots of language at initial stages is all imperatives. So as audiolingual method used, dialogues or role play in TPR class for some time until the learners become actually mature learners. Basics are taught using imperatives. Basics are taught using imperatives. Okay. So that is also very important. Now here, I will show you this. Look at this. Example activities, Curtin and Dalberg, 2010, from the TPR class, because they use imperatives. You think, what language can be taught using imperatives? It's very little, no. Come, go, eat and all that. No, you can teach a lot of language. If you're very creative, this is an example you can see. Raise your hand. Put your hand on your foot. Turn around. Put your hand on the floor. How many words are introduced through these imperatives? Put your hand on your elbow, raise your knee, turn around, jump backwards 3 times. Put your elbow on your knee and turn around. Raise your hand, walk backwards to the map, put your left hand on your head and put your right elbow on South America, that map again. Angie, hold the stuffed animal monkey with your right hand. Mario, put your right elbow on the monkey's head. Kim, put your elbow on the monkey's nose. Class, take out your imaginary cameras and take a picture of the monkey and his friends and smile. So you can see what a lot of actually language is there through imperatives. The students can learn in the TPR classroom. Can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So what a lot of language, no? And so you can later on introduce like that. Tap on it 3 times. Tap on that 5 times. The numbers are introduced. And students physically respond. They just tap, right? Turn to page 19, turn to page 16, go to like that. You can, a lot of things can be, if you're actually very creative, but all imperatives, initial stages, because in first language, that is what happens according to Azure. So very interesting, okay? So you come back to the class, previous slide, learning activities, fixed number of items, usually not more than 30. Predominantly imperative drills. Main technique, imperative drills. Okay, imperative drills. Role playing can also be used. that role play can dialogues, but it should actually not very, dialogues are for audiolingual method, imperatives are for TPR. Conversational dialogues begin after at least 100 hours of instruction with TPR. 100 hours of teaching using imperatives. Once it is done only, dialogues are introduced to the TPR class. And imperatives, language is taught through imperatives for 100 hours. Then you can actually use conversational dialogues as well. So action songs are a very good technique. Simon says action songs because they sort of come, go, eat, or like that. You get them to perform actions also. So they listen, they comprehend, and then they physically respond later on that they will speak. So something like that. And stress-free, when you all actually, now you think physical activities like sports and dance and all that, you are very free, no? We are stress-free. So that stress-free classroom is created through physical activities. So I showed you this example, okay, of TPR. Then role of the learner. Role of the learner, listener and performer by physical activities. They listen and perform. Listener and performer. Listen, comprehend and physically respond. Recognize and respond to novel combinations of previously taught items. Now you, in one class, you say cut, add, like that. Now you can expand it. Cut the onions and add the, like that. You can actually make it more elaborative language. And novel combinations are produced. Encourage not to speak until they feel ready. The safe zone. You're not going to force them to speak just because that they have listened to it. You give them the safe zone to be kind of explored. Then they will actually listen, comprehend, and physically respond. Then they are naturally ready to speak. So you're not going to force them to speak. They have to be in the safe zone, engage in physical activities, respond physically, and then they will be ready to speak. That is the idea. So the role of the learner is listener and performer. And role of the teacher, active and direct role. Select supporting materials and model the lesson. Allow speaking abilities to develop in natural pace. You're not going to force. You're not going to force. You give them listening. You get them to comprehend and physically respond. They will be in the safe zone for some time and then they will speak. Parent-like feedback. And you're not going to actually penalize them or anything. It's going to be stress-free in your class. Okay. So TPR approach, the advantages and disadvantages. So before actually getting you to look at TPR advantages and disadvantages, I'm trying to show you a model lesson on TPR. Right. I have to share it with you. Give me a second. Share sound.
We're going to do a little story.
Can you see and hear?
Right? Now, you do it with me, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see and hear?
Yes,
Right.
madam.
Say hello to your mom. Hello. Say hello to your mom. Hello. You are hungry.
A TPR sequence is demonstrated. The children listen and do the movements accordingly. The sentences are repeated several times. In the beginning, it's important to maintain the order. The children learn to understand the meaning of the sentences with the help of mimes, gestures, and drawings on the board. Doing the movements themselves is an important memory aid.
show the plum to your mom? Your mom says,
So it's
Soon,
all
the
fun.
children can make the movements on their own and in a different order.
say hello to your mom. Your mom says, eek. Say hello to your mom. Your mom shows you some plums. Your mom.
Okay. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
madam.
ma'am.
Right. Okay. Now, can you see the slides or I have to share it again?
No, madam, you can see the slides.
You can see the slides. Okay. Now,
Yes, make them in larger,
what
madam,
can-
please. I'm taking the
please.
screenshots.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. And now, what are the advantages? You all now can imagine a class like that. What are the advantages? Lot of fun and enjoyment and stress-free, and it lifts the mood. Am I right?
Yes.
Am I right? Yes.
Yeah.
And young learners, maybe they are in grade 2 or 3 in formal setting, they are learning English language for the first time. This is really good because it's stress-free and they listen, they comprehend, they are actually to be in the safe zone for some time by physically responding. And then ultimately when they are ready, they will speak and you're not going to force it on your learn, right? So TPR is a memorable activity as to assist students to recognize phrases or words, because repeating the same thing, physical activities, responding physically, is actually a memorable activity. It's good for kinesthetic learners who need to be active in class. Now, you know, we have visual learners, we have auditory learners, we have kinesthetic learners. That means you like to do it and learn. You want physically actually involved in your learning. So this is really good for the kinesthetic learners. So you don't have to say that we are not kinesthetic. There can be non-kinesthetic learners, but young learners, they like to actually engage in physical activities and learn. So this is really good because this is kinesthetic learning, okay? And it can be used both in a large class or in a small class, because as long as teacher takes the lead, the learners will follow. Now, it doesn't have to be a very small class because individually you don't have to teach. They just watch you in front of class, you go and actually mime and they observe you and they comprehend and you can see how they physically respond. Even a large class can be handled, okay? It works well with mixed ability classes because the physical actions get across the meaning effectively so that all learners are able to comprehend and apply the target language. So even if it's a weak set of students, it will help them to learn the language because a lot of physical activities, miming, observations are there for them to catch the language, okay? There's no requirement of preparing a lot of preparation or materials like reading material, activities. They are not needed. No, you can walk into the classroom if you're confident and you can make use of the objects and props in the classroom, and then actually you can do the teaching. A lot of materials are not needed. It's very effective with teenagers and young learners, not with the adults, because adults like to learn grammar rules, analyze, read and all that. Young learners, they like to actually learn the language in a play manner, play method, okay? Play method. So, disadvantage is it's stress-free, right? Language is learned in a stress-free way because physical activities are kind of combined with language learning. Disadvantage is what? Students are actually not encouraged to speak and there will not be any creativity. This will be a shy challenge for the shy students. Those who learn silently without much movement, right? They will not like this method because we have to think of adults as well, no? Because this is second language learning. It can be a set of adult learners. There can be shy ones there. It's not a very creative method, no? No creativity, it's just imitation. Overusing TPR causes someone easily bored. Once you use only this method in the class, TPR, TPR, TPR with imperatives and all that, right? Adult learners, second language learners may get bored, right? Certain target languages may not be suited to this method now. Language learning is not, second language learning is not limited to just utterances, no? There's more to it. So reading and writing cannot be taught using this method. And when the learner wants to get into the next stage of language learning, with kind of advanced language, this method is actually useless. There are limitations. So ultimately, the take-home message is TPR on its own is not actually very effective to teach second language. TPR on its own, only TPR method used, it's not very effective. But if you can actually mix TPR with other methods, mix TPR with other methods of language learning, it's going to be very effective and interesting. We call it eclecticism, eclectic method. If I take you to this slide, you can see language teaching methods here. Principled eclecticism. That means you are drawing different techniques and strategies and concepts from different methods and combine them to make it suitable to your class. In such an approach, principal eclecticism, that is what happens in the language classroom now, right? You're not going to be slaves to any one of these single methods, right? But you're going to use elements from different methods. So if you use TPR as one element with other methods, that is going to be very effective and interesting in the language classroom. So that's the take-home message about TPR. Is it clear to you, or you have any questions? Now here Simon says, now you can read the conclusion. Total, can one of you read the conclusion? Can one of you read the conclusion?
The total physical response should be used in association with other methods and techniques. Indeed, practitioners of TPR typically follow this recommendation, suggesting that for many teachers, TPR represents a useful set of techniques and is compatible with other approaches to teaching.
Thank you. That means you can actually take this as an element and mix it with other methods. Then you're eclectic, you're into principal eclecticism. Then of course, this is really a good method. That is why the total physical response that is continuing up to now. On its own, total physical response on its own as a separate one and only method, no, it's not going to give you actually desired results. But this as combined with other methods and techniques drawn from other approaches and methods is going to make your lessons very interesting and effective. I think you understand. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay, now, if you understand this, I can set you homework 1, and I want 2 or 3 volunteers to present as well. Can you think of a kind of a set of imperatives? A set of imperatives to teach language in the classroom, as I showed you the example. It's not just actually little language. There's a lot of language into that, but it's all imperatives. If I'm to take you back to that, okay. Now you can see here. Raise your hand, put your hand on your foot, turn around like that. And in the monkey's case, it's not only one person. Angie, hold the monkey with your right hand. So hold the monkey in the right hand. Right? Mario, put your right elbow on this like that. You know, body parts of the monkey and the concept of right and left. All these are there. So you can actually develop a kind of few lines where you use imperatives, but you don't have to make it isolated ones. You can actually select one context, like, you know, cooking verbs, maybe. So add, put, like that. So it is in context. It's meaningful, but you're using only imperatives. So likewise, some other verbs also, because it starts with the verb, no? So you can think of maybe gardening, like that, maybe giving instructions.
Giving directions, madam?
Sorry?
Giving directions, turn right, turn left.
Giving directions, definitely, yes. So you're using it in context as well, right? So I want you to actually think a bit and be creative and bring some few lines, all imperatives, but you're teaching some good language, right? There's a lot to learn in that through that imperative that you are going to use. Who are going to volunteer to take up this as a challenge and interest and do it and bring it to the class so the others also can see? Ignore the cow. No. Amelia.
I would do that.
What's your name, dear?
Ayesha, madam, again.
Ayesha. Very good, Ayesha. Good. So you're a good girl, right? You take interest in the class work. This time also now Ayesha wants to do. I need 2 more. Lejjayappa, 71 of you in Adhyani.
Ma'am, I also will take one. Sandhuni here, ma'am, once again.
Sadhini?
Sandhuni.
Sandhuni. So Sandhuni and Ayesha, very good. And one more. It's not always Ayesha and Sandhuni, others also can do. So I'm encouraging you.
I will also take the chance, madam.
Name?
Niroshana.
Right. Niroshana, Sandhuni and Ayesha. I want you to take interest, a little bit of thinking, and you can search online and create some advanced language through imperatives, okay? And make it through in context as well. Very good. Thank you. Ayesha, Sandhuni, and I forgot. The other one?
Niroshana.
Niroshana. Right, Niroshana. Okay. Others are very silent. There are few chat box messages. How to prepare fruit salad? Yes. Ma'am, the song you put your right hand. Yeah, very good. So action songs. Simon Says. They can be used. Okay, very good. That is Niroshana. Yeah, you're correct. And you don't have to take it as it is. You can actually be a little bit creative. Like, good. So hope that you understand. In TPR, we discuss James Asher, what he observed in young children in L1 learning, and then introducing TPR. The same thing, age may vary, but they go through the same way of learning language. So it's introduced the safe zone before speaking. Listen, comprehend, understand, and then physically respond, stay in the safe zone, and when they are ready, they will speak. Okay, that's the idea. And we discuss the 3 underlying principles as, what are the 3 underlying principles? Bio program, brain lateralization, and stress-free classroom. Okay. And then we discuss approach, theory of language as structuralism, theory of language learning as behaviorism. And then we discuss kind of advanced role of the teacher, role of the student, learner. And then we discuss the materials used. And then we discuss the advantages and disadvantages. Okay. And some examples and the take-home message. That is what we discuss in TPR. So let me actually show you something. And every one of you, not only 1 or 2 or 3 people today, every one of you have to, give me a second, I'm opening it. Complete this task on your own. Okay, let me. This is what you can, I will actually open a Word document and show you what you're supposed to do, because I downloaded it and I can't actually locate it right now. So this is what you're supposed to do. Now, take A4 paper and have 5 columns. 1 for GTM, 1 for direct method, 1 for audiolingual method, TPR, and communicative language teaching. And then take it like this. So name them. Here, GTM. Go to the next one. What should be the next one? Direct method. Then ALM. Today we discuss TPR. So next day we are going to look at communicative language teaching approach or the method. So these are the 5 methods we are covering. So you can actually write about, sorry, and I need you to insert another column to the left, okay? There you can actually put criteria, skills focused. Some I'm giving, but you can actually think and do, right? Skills focused. And then you can say the role of L1, role of L1. Okay. Then you can actually put the skills focused. Role of L1. What else?
Techniques.
Sorry? Sorry? Before techniques, theory of language.
Theory of language.
It doesn't come under 2. What is it? First 2. Theory of language.
Direct method.
Then theory of language learning. Theory of language learning. Then you can put techniques. Then you can put material used. Material used. Then you can put role of learner. Role of teacher. Role of teacher. Then you can put role of learner. Role of learner. What else? Error. Mistakes. Right? Mistakes. How they are, whether they are tolerated or they are not tolerated. You can go on adding also. Like that, you have to now underline principles. Some underlying principles are there. In some underlying principles are not there. Underlying principles. Likewise, you can actually complete this. You can think of GTM, you can think of direct method, you can think of TPR. CLT is yet to do, right? It's yet to be done, so you don't have to worry about it. So can you complete something like that can bring next day? It's a very good activity for you to actually study. Am I right? Or am I not right?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually speaking, this is very important. Then you will not miss anything, right? You will not miss anything.
Ma'am,
So
can
you
you
can
scroll it up a little?
Up. It's this.
No, ma'am. Can't see that letter part. Want to take a
Letter
screenshot?
part.
Want to take a screenshot, ma'am?
I will be sending this to you. Okay. This is the one. So you can go on adding also, right? Down, 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 take some more rows and go on adding. If there are anything else that I couldn't put here, you see while reading it, the note, you can add. Okay. In the relevant column, you can write. For some, GTM and DM, theory of language and theory of language learning is not there. Underlying principles, we don't discuss in GTM and DM like that. So you can do. So it's a very good actually summary note for you. While reading your notes on different methods, you complete this graph, grid and keep it with you for exam purpose. Okay? Righto. Right. So now it's 2:50, right? 2:50. We have to go on till 4. So can I give you a 15-minute break and get you to be back by 3:05?
Thank you,
Sure,
madam.
ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Sure.
But I want to tell you, there are 67. All should be back. Okay, don't go to bed after some quick lunch or whatever. Don't go to bed for a nap. This is important, right? You all have to actually come back, make it 3:05. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about 3-dimensional approach to teach grammar, and I'm going to set an assignment on that. So I want you to come, right? Kinesthetic learning means tactile. Rather, I say tactile means touch. No, kinesthetic or kinesthetic means bodily movements. You know, you in bodily movements. If you get them to do a drama, if you get them to actually out, they are kinesthetic. So dancing is kinesthetic. Your sports is kinesthetic. Your body involvement is there. That is kinesthetic. Okay. So be back at 3:05 today. Okay, all of you. Okay,
Thank you, madam.
okay. Please be back by 3:05. Hello. Hello. Hi.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, okay. It's 3:05, but I see only 50. So we'll give another 1 more minute for them. And then we'll start the 3-dimensional approach to teach grammar. And this is actually a very commonly used approach nowadays because it's very effective. Okay, so let's see what is kind of meant by this 3-dimensional approach to teach grammar. So 49 people still here. So we'll wait for another 1 minute and see whether they come back. Okay. You all have had your lunch
Yes, madam.
now only or before joining the class, 1 o'clock?
Yes, madam, during the break.
Yeah, me also. It's a quick lunch anyway. My lunch was not ready by that time, so I had to wait. Okay, 50 are here. This time is a bit difficult, no? But you have the weekend only, no? So I also can work only weekends because weekdays I'm unable to come and you all working. Most of you all are teachers, right?
Yes, madam, I suppose.
Yeah. Most of you all are teachers. Maybe colleges of education, right?
Yes.
Now, it's a top-up degree for you, no? Or you have to study 3 or 4 years? You have been given an exemption for your diploma?
Yes, ma'am. It's a
Yes,
top-up
madam,
degree.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a top-up, no? Yes, good. Maybe that you have covered all these things in your College of Education program as well. And the
Yes, madam.
දන්නේ වගේ ඉන්නවා. මතක නෑද නැත්තම්? What?
We had done, madam.
Yes, yes. Definitely you have no teaching skills and grammar, vocabulary and all these things are very common topics now in those programs, right? And these former methods, definitely, yeah. Anybody from Pastunata College?
I myself, madam.
Yeah, and Miss Dulani, she taught you?
Dulani, madam. Yes, madam.
5 daughters. Now she's in New Zealand, right?
Yes, madam.
Yes, she has gone to New Zealand
Yes,
for her
madam.
studies.
Okay. Dulani, madam. Yes, madam. Yeah. She was trying to. I don't know whether, but she was trying to go there.
And she has 5 girls, no?
Yes, madam.
She has left all the 5 girls and gone. She has gone, no?
I don't know, madam. Last year, we went there because the seniors, we did a small project to help the in-house teachers. There, then we went there and we met her. One of my batchmates, madam.
Right. Okay.
Last year, August, September, madam, she was there. Recently, maybe. She has migrated.
Who did literature for you?
Tilak sir.
Right. Okay, back to the work. There are 60 odd people come back. Okay, then now we discuss 2 main approaches to teach grammar. Okay, this is not unit 2, the rest of your syllabus. Okay. The unit 2 is former methods of teaching English language. It's separately done. And this is the rest of the syllabus I'm doing. So we discussed last week 2 main approaches to teach grammar, like deductive and inductive. Okay. And we looked at examples also. But today we are looking at some other approaches to teach grammar. They don't actually fall into deductive or inductive. You can use deductive or inductive. Either, it's your choice. When you actually want to apply or adapt this approach as well. So let's first discuss what this approach is all about. It is termed as 3-dimensional grammar framework or the 3-dimensional approach to teach grammar by Celsi-Murcia and Larsen-Freeman. Okay, Larsen-Freeman. The 3-dimensional approach to teach grammar the three-dimensional grammar framework otherwise. Okay. Now look at this. There are three components to this. What are the three components here? Form or the structure. Then meaning or semantics and use of pragmatics. So when you, this is the message here. This is the kind of belief here. When you actually teach your students grammar, right? Mostly or basically, we teach them only the structure or the form. If it is simple present tense, how to use the S form, base form, how to put it into negative, how to put it into interrogative. We give a lot of practice on that. That is the form or the structure. Okay? But just because that somebody knows the structure, it doesn't mean that he or she actually can use that grammar in communication. Example, now you know your simple present tense. You know, if it is she, it's cooks. If it is negative, she does not cook. If it is I, it is cook. And if it is negative, I don't cook, you know that. You have practiced it enough, right? That is the form or the structure of simple present tense. But if you really do not know the meaning of it, the meaning is something that you do on regular basis. Something that you do on regular basis. For example, in simple present tense, if somebody says, I bake cakes for my living. I bake cakes for my living. So you have to know on regular basis. It's general, right? It happens often. And she does it often. It's regular. That's the meaning. Now, simple past, I baked a cake. It's something that she has done in the past and it's now over, right? So that's the meaning. So you have to know the meaning. Otherwise, that grammar structure that you teach them or they learn is useless, right? And then the third component is the pragmatics. Pragmatics or the use. Now, suppose they should know that if I'm to actually talk about my hobbies, I have to use simple present, not present continuous, right? If I'm to talk about immediate planned future, I have to use present continuous. It's not I will, right? I will go to Kandy and I'm going to Kandy, two different meanings. So they should know the use as well. Suppose now you want to talk about your regrets. Your regrets. You regret things in life. We all have our own regrets. Now I ask you a question. What is the structure that you have to use? What is the structure that you have to use? There can be several, but can you tell me one of the structures that you can use? That is use, okay? If you know the use of that grammar, if I'm to talk about my regrets, I have to use this structure. Can you tell me, you want to talk about your regrets? Do you have regrets in life? We all have. What's the appropriate structure? One of the structures.
Present continuous, ma'am.
To talk about regrets, give me an example.
Regrets. Yeah.
Regret කියන්නේ පසුතැවෙන.
Oh, madam.
පසුතැවෙන්නේ කරන්න බැරි වෙච්ච දෙයකට හරි මොනවා හරි කරත්.
Simple past.
No, others, give it a try.
Would have.
Madam.
You are there. Not past perfect also. Past perfect is also wrong. It's actually the conditional type 3. Am I right?
Yes.
Conditional type 3. Then you want to talk about your regrets, you will definitely use conditional type 3.
I would have done like that.
I would have done it for you, but you have not done it. So So you actually regret that. Okay. If I had known your number, I could have called you. You couldn't call because you did not have the number and you regret it. So all the three components should be taught. Otherwise, grammar is useless. Grammar, for the sake of grammar, only the structure is useless. You have to teach them the use and the meaning as well. So think of your grammar lessons, because most of you all are practicing teachers. Think of your grammar lesson. So you have done in class. Have you given equal emphasis on all the three components or the dimensions? I'm asking genuinely. Most of the time, we actually make it the form and the structure practice. Am I right?
Yes.
Or I'm correct, I'm wrong.
Normally we do that, madam.
Yes, that is it. Even if you go look at textbooks, we are using, right? Mostly it's the actually the form or the structure that we are focusing on, but it's a useless grammar because they do not know the use and the meaning, right? Then only that they can easily use it in communication and make use of their knowledge of grammar. So this three-dimensional grammar framework by Mercier and Freeman, okay, they actually focus on these three dimensions or the three components, and they want you to give equal weightage to all the three as it's shown in this figure or the diagram, okay? So let's see how we can do that. Are you okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Yes. Let's see this. Celsi, Mercier, and Larson's Freeman. Grammar is not merely a collection of forms. Forms mean structures, but rather involves the three dimensions: syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. Syntax means you all know the 4 levels. Syntax means the structure. Semantics is the meaning, and the pragmatics is the use. Grammatical structures not only have a morphosyntactic form, they are also used to express meaning and context-appropriate use. So this should be taken into consideration in teaching grammar. Primacy is given to, I can give you another example here. Sometimes back, right? Not very recently, because now the O-level, ordinary level English language paper has become nothing, right? They are just mechanical and it doesn't actually show the performance of any. I think if you take, what do you call it, A1, A2, can a framework, what a framework is that? Reference, English language reference framework, international. You are not in the bottom level, even if you have a distinction for your O levels, because it's not actually standardized. So because of that, I'm referring to very recent ones, and in a paper, they were asked to do a picture description. So they should know, now you have taught them grammar. So they should know that they have to use present continuous form in picture description, because in the picture, it's happening right now. If it is happening right now, that is the meaning. So what's the use? You can use it for picture description, right? That's one of the uses. So they all should know it's not is, I am, ing form rule. Right. Primacy is given to meaning. The semantics and pragmatics aspects of grammar language, though form and structure are also given considerable importance to encourage a balance between grammar and communication. Then only that they can use it in communication if you know the use and meaning, right? Form. The way that, can I get one of it because I explained, right? Can you actually read this slide or?
The way the grammar structure is built and organized within a text or discourse, the student has to be taught how the grammar structure is formed: simple present, form, base form. S form, base form.
That is what we teach in grade 6. First, we introduce the pronouns. Then S form and base form. Before that, S form, what are the rules for S form? S saw, yes saw, hatvayana, like that. So it's all forms, right? If it is simple present tense, active voice, is a am, ing. Passive voice, is a am, be, ing, being, and past, like that. We use all the structures that is actually form. We are very good at giving a lot of practice of that. Okay, it happens, but the rest hardly happens. Because of that, there is actually a grammar without purpose. Grammar is you're aware, but you can't use it in communication. So meaning, can you read?
Meaning, the meaning a particular grammar structure conveys. Passive, who does the action? I went to Candy, action is over.
Yeah, examples. You should know the meaning of that. For example, simple present tense, it happens on regular basis. Simple past tense, it's actually the action is done and it's over. Now passive, now, otherwise that they can't get the meaning. No, I hit Mala. So who is the doer? It's I, the subject. Who is the sufferer of the action? It's Mala. So you put it into passive and say Mala was hit by me. Then you should know it's not Mala who may hit me, but I hit Mala, though Mala comes as the first subject of the sentence there. So you should know the actually meaning. I went to Candy, you should know action is over. So that of course you have to communicate. You have to teach your students with the grammar structure. Then the use, can you read?
Students should be taught when to use the grammatical structure, simple present, habitual actions, etc.
Yeah. Now the example you all gave in the morning, sorry, not in the morning, once we started, degrees of adjectives. So if you want to compare two people or two things, it's the comparative degree of adjective, right? Like that, you have to actually give them meaning and use as well. So when you actually describe graphs, use a KKI, right? Describe graphs. So you can actually use this comparative and superlative. So you get them to describe a graph. They know what structures to be actually used. Otherwise, they're stuck. They're stuck. Now, you are asked to write an invitation. So, you know, I know my grammar structures. What can be used? You know, you can recall. I have to use passive voice here. Like that, you will actually use them. Right? So that is the three-dimensional approach to teach grammar. Now we need an example. Okay, I will give you an example. Now here you are teaching your students, right? You are teaching your students conditional type 3. Conditional type 3. Then you first teach them the structure or the form. So you teach them the result clause is in would have, could have, should have, might have, past participle. The condition is in past perfect. And you get them to practice also. If I had known your number, I could have definitely informed you. Like that. Then the second one, it should be, it has not happened. Right? It has not happened. It has not happened. And third, you have to tell them to give excuses, to show your regret. You can use this conditional type 3. So if you are using deductive approach, you can explain everything, all the 3 aspects. If you are using inductive approach, you have to actually give them activities to find it out. That is how you have to do. Notice and then to work it out. So it's up to you to decide whether you are going deductive or inductive in teaching the 3 dimensions of the grammar lesson, all the 3 aspects. If it is you have only 1 period or 2 periods and students are very weak, you might use deductive approach. If you think that I have enough number of periods to cover that, and I have a small class, so I can easily put them into groups and monitor, so you can use the inductive approach. If you are using inductive approach, you have to bring material, activities for noticing, and you need a lot of time for them to present their answers to the class and to lead a discussion. It is time consuming, we all know. But it's more learned because remembering is 90%, learning is 90% if they do and say. That also you know. But depending on the context of teaching, that you decide whether I'm teaching this grammar using deductive or inductive. But anyway, whatever the main approach that you're using doesn't matter. You have to make sure that all the 3 dimensions or the components of that grammar rule should be taught. Otherwise, it's actually grammar for the sake of grammar, not for communication. Got it or you didn't get that? Got it or you didn't get that?
Got it,
Got it, ma'am.
Right. So I really would like, now Hamadam, I give you homework. Now it's 3:30. Can I put you into breakout rooms and give you 5 or 10 minutes and decide on the grammar rule and the 3 components, what you're going to actually tell them, and come back in 5 minutes. So I will give you 10 minutes here. Is it possible? Or you're not ready to do that? This time, if you find it difficult, I really don't want you to. Do you like doing that? You like it? Huh? What? Hell will you make? Hello? Appa, what a class. Tell will you, are you ready to do that or you are not ready to do that? We'll do the lesson then. I mean, what is this mean like? Respond, will you? Are you okay to work in team, breakout rooms, or you're not ready today? I ask you. There's
Can
a
you continue
message.
the lesson, ma'am?
Lesson, please, madam. Okay. Overload, listen and learn, people. I will. Okay. But can you think of a 3 dimensions of a grammar rule and how to present it to the class, how to conduct your lesson? Can you think and come? Can you think and come?
It means, madam, we have to plan the lesson according to the 3-dimensional grammar format. Frame.
Yeah, it can be. You have to teach all the 3 dimensions, right? You have to teach all the 3 dimensions. You can use either deductive or inductive or a mixed method. Some parts are deductive, some parts are inductive. If it is deductive, you explain things and give them practice activities. If it is inductive, you bring materials, get them to know these, and then discover the grammar rule. So you can use either deductive or inductive, but you're going to focus on all the 3 components of grammar teaching. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am, clear.
That is what. So in actually using, ma'am can't hear you. I can't be heard either. Now okay. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, ma'am.
All right, okay. Now, then I will also bring you something next day. Some inductive and deductive to teach all the 3 forms. I will actually take it up again because I want to discuss with the institute and see what kind of assignments and all that to be given. So accordingly, I decide the area of assignment and all that. So you need more practice and I'll do that for you, right? And now we'll go to the next one then. It's actually, let me open my PowerPoint presentation and show you this. You have to give me a little bit of time to locate it. Please. Give me a second, okay? I have want to now teaching them one, teaching them two. This is a 3 dimensions. So. Yeah. Now look at this. Communicative competence. What am I going to teach you today? Communicative competence. Right. So what is this all about? Communicative competence. Now, we
Madam, can't see the slides, madam.
I don't see the slides. Okay. Let me share. Right. Now I'm going to show you something called communicative competence. You can see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, actually, I'm showing you this slide because of this. Now, we teach them grammar. We teach them language. But they actually can't use that language in communication effectively. It's the case here also in Sri Lanka. No? You look at your students, they know English. That means they know their grammar, right? They know their grammar. You have been teaching them. But when it comes to communicating, using that language you taught, English as a second language, they are not very good up to the standard and they actually struggle. Is it the experience here in Sri Lanka? Or it's not so?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, now you know in government schools, we start teaching English, even in grade 1, you have ABO, activity-based oral English. But by the time that they leave school, there are students, those who can't speak, those who can't write, okay, communicate. But why has this happened? Why has this happened? So the second language scholars, linguists, they actually got together and discussed. And they came up with this concept, communicative competence. Communicative competence. What is meant by communicative? So Canally and Swain in 1980. Okay, Canally and Swain in 1980. They say, if you really want your learner to become competent in communication, communicative competence, if you want your learner to be competent in communication, you have to get them to actually develop 4 competencies. How many competencies? 4 competencies.
4 competencies.
What are those 4 competencies that they should develop? Because all throughout, in grammar translation method, in direct method, in audiolingual method, in total physical response, knowing a language means knowing its structure, Knowing a language means knowing its structure. So how come just because that they know the structure of the language, how come that they actually are not good communicators? There's a gap. The gap between, I repeat, the gap, Vanessa, the gap between knowledge and performance. Knowledge and performance. The gap between knowledge and performance. They have the knowledge. They know the grammar rules. But performance, that is using English for communication, they can't use it. They're not good. It's not effective. They're struggling. So there's a gap between knowledge. They know grammar rules, but they can't use it in communication. That is performance. So how to bridge that gap between knowledge and performance? How to bridge that gap between knowledge and performance? So that is what this Connelly and Swain, using communicative competence, talked about. Okay, is it clear before I move on to the 4 competencies?
Yes, madam.
Okay, do you want me to repeat? I can repeat if you want.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes means repeat or continue.
Repeat, madam.
Yes, keyword I don't understand about that. Yes means what you want me to do. You understood or you didn't understand it?
Repeat once, please, madam.
Right, okay. It's no problem, right? And this is what? Now, we look at all the methods we learned. Grammar translation, direct method, audiolingual method, and Totu-Kiska response, right? They are theory of language in 2, and always they actually place importance on grammar. Knowing a language means knowing its structure, right? But they saw, now your students, they know its structure. They know the language. They know the language. Knowledge is there. But when they have to actually perform, that is when they have to use language in communication, they were failing. They couldn't do that. There was a gap. The gap is termed as the gap between knowledge and performance. Knowledge is they know the grammar rules. Performance is they can't use it in communication effectively. They struggle. So knowledge means they know the grammar rule, but performance means when they have to speak or write in English, they are struggling. So there's a gap. The gap is termed as gap between knowledge and performance. Is it clear? Is it
Yes,
clear?
ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Connelly and Swain in 1980 says, this gap should be bridged. This gap should be minimized. This gap should be bridged. There should not be a gap between knowledge and performance. How to bridge the gap between knowledge and performance? Connelly and Swain in 1980 talks about communicative competence, right? What is termed as communicative competence according to Connelly and Swain? If you want to use language in communication effectively, if you want to actually bridge the gap between knowledge and the performance, and then your learners become performers, they can use language in communication, you have to actually get the learner to develop 4 competencies. How many competencies? 4 competencies. The 4 competencies that the learner should develop in order to become communicatively competent or to bridge the gap between knowledge and performance are grammatical competence, social linguistic competence, discourse competence, and strategic competence. Those are the 4 components of communicative competence. Then there will be no gap between knowledge and performance. So if we want to minimize that gap between knowledge and performance, we have to get the learner to develop communicative competence. The communicative competence should have 4 competencies integrated into into each other, right? The four are grammatical, social linguistic, discourse, and strategy. Are you okay with that? So I have to explain what these competencies are further. Yes. Then let's see what is meant by linguistic competence. Linguistic or grammatical competence means the knowledge of vocabulary and grammar, punctuation, and syntax. We have been teaching it already, no? Structures, vocabulary and grammar. Linguistics and grammatical competence. Linguistic competence or grammatical competence. Right. But it is only one component. It is only one component of communicative competence. The other three we have been neglecting. We have not got them to develop these other three competencies. That is why that gap between knowledge and performance. We have been actually focusing only on linguistic competence, or another word for linguistic competence is grammatical competence. We teach them vocabulary and language, grammar, and all that, conventions and structures. But if you are to perform, if you want to bridge that gap between knowledge and performance, you have to think of not only linguistics or grammatical competence, you have to think of other three competencies as well. So let's see what the other three are now. Here, socio-linguistic competence. Socio-linguistic competence means having awareness of social rules of language. Social rules of language. Now, formal, informal language. You're talking to your friend, you say hi. You're talking to your boss, or you're talking to your lecturer. You can say hi, it is less formal, but you don't say hi buddy or something like that. No? Degree of formal and informal. Now you're writing a letter. You're writing to your cousin and you're writing to an office. The degree of formality. That is termed as socio-linguistic competence. Right? Non-verbal behaviors and cultural references, idiomatic expressions, background knowledge. Now, for example, background knowledge, idiomatic expressions. Where's the loo? Where's the loo? Loo is another word for washrooms. But in some cultures, they don't use the term washroom, but they use the term loo. So you're in that context. So you should know these words. And then background knowledge. For example, some cultures, they have their own concepts, maybe single parent and all that. So, so they have their own references to those cultural and background knowledge related things. So you have to be aware of those as well, right? You have to be aware of non-verbal behaviors. For example, shake hand, right? Different cultures have their own ways. So like that, you have to be aware of. With English language, you have to actually get your learner to know the socio-linguistic aspect of that language as well. Basically, අපිට හිතන්න පුළුවන් formality, degree of formality, formal or informal language. And there's a difference between written and spoken language. Written language and spoken language. You have to know that. For class friends, in written documents, in teaching jargon, you use peers, the word peers. The teacher-student relationship, you say rapport. Likewise, those kind of understanding is very important if you actually want to build up that communicative competence in your students. Grammatical or linguistic competence alone will not give them communicative competence. There will be a gap between knowledge and performance otherwise. So that is social linguistic. Now you look at discourse competence. Another one is discourse competence. Now, what is this discourse competence? understanding how ideas are connected through. Understanding how ideas are connected through patterns of organization, cohesive and transitional devices like first, then, afterwards, like that. Then other cohesion and coherence in order to similarly, after that, next, all these words. So connectedness should be there. That is discourse competence. And strategic competence is using techniques to overcome language gaps, barriers. You don't know everything. So you need to actually get things clarified. You need to actually change the topic. You need somebody to actually get to repeat something. So you want to actually then only that you will be fluent in conversations. Otherwise, you want to disagree. You do not know how to disagree and all that. So that is strategic competence. So this actually keep that in mind, and I will show you an example. Before showing you examples, I will actually get you to read this. 4 people can read. Who will read grammatical competence? This is what I explained, but you can read. Who can read grammatical competence? I can put you on PowerPoint mode, right? I get you to read. Grammatical competence.
Grammatical competence, words and rules, knowing how to use the grammar, syntax, and vocabulary of a language. Linguistic competence asks, what words do I use? How do I put them into phrases and sentences?
Good. Now somebody reads social linguistic competence. Who will read?
Social linguistic competences, appropriateness, knowing how to use and respond to the language appropriately, given the setting, the topic, and the relationship among the people communicating. Social linguistic competence asks which words and phrases fit this setting and this topic. How can I express a specific attitude? Courtly, authority, friendliness, respect, when I need to. How do I know what attitude a person is expressing?
Yeah, that is social linguistic competence. Good. Who is reading discourse competence?
Discourse competence. Cohesion and coherence, knowing how to interpret the larger context and how to construct longer stretches of language so that the parts make up a coherent whole. Discourse competence asks, how are words, phrases, and sentences put together to create conversation, speeches, email messages, newspaper articles?
Yeah, they are not disconnected with, they are connected to each other. So the flow is there and easily understood, right? Discourse competence. Good reading. Strategic competence.
Strategic competence, appropriate use of communicative strategies, knowing how to recognize and repair communication breakdowns, how to work around gaps in one's knowledge of the language, and how to learn more about the language and in the context. Strategic competence asks, how do I know when I misused or when someone has misused me?
Misunderstood me.
Misunderstood me. What do I say then? How can I express my ideas if I don't know the names of something or the right verb form to use?
Right. Breakdowns of language can be actually dealt with by you. Now, I want you to have a look at this, but it's the last bit I'm doing. But it's very important, so give me a second. Here, look at this. Now here I have given you some examples. I want you to look at this and say which competence it refers to, right? Sample 1. Now I will read it for a change. Okay, now move your cursor over and choose the scene from the menu. From the what? The menu. Menu, what do they call it a menu? Well, cause you choose from a list, just like in a restaurant, a menu. Oh, okay. What competence is represented by this kind of language example? Which competence is actually shown here? Okay, now move your cursor over this and choose the scene from the menu. What? From the what? She didn't know the word menu. The menu. Menu, why do they call it a menu? Well, cause you choose. Now even the gaps in the language are kind of addressed. What is that competence referred to as? Strategic competence. What is it? Strategic competence. The word meaning is not known and he doesn't know how to continue with the conversation. Then you can't actually be an effective user or a communicator. Sample 2. Hello, Mr. Patterson. Thanks for dropping by. I have reviewed your bank statement and interrupting. Dude, you gonna ask me a bunch of lame questions? Lame questions? I didn't know. I do have a few more questions. Well, make it fast because I'm on a tight schedule. Which competence is this as an example of?
Social linguistic.
Very good. Social linguistic. Here, formal, informal. Because this is a conversation between banker and the client. But there's no, now the banker is very formal, but the client is very informal. So inappropriacy is there. And at the same time here, polite, not polite. No? Lame questions, I don't know. You are going to ask me a bunch of lame questions. Gonna, it's very informal language. So colloquial language. So this is lacking social linguistic competence. Okay. Here's sample 3. Look at this. I told him about it. Told who about what? John and Mike about the report and he wasn't happy about it. Who wasn't happy? Mike wasn't. What is lacking in this language? Which competence?
Discourse.
Yeah, head and tail there in it. So that is also one important competence if you want to be develop your communicative competence. Then sample 4 is very simple. What is it? He eaten the ice cream. She no think you're right. What is lacking?
Grammatical.
Grammatical competence. So I taught you about communicative competence, bridging the gap between knowledge and performance through the development of communicative competence. And the communicative competence, according to Canale and Swain in 1980, there are 4, that is grammatical or linguistic competence, social linguistic competence, discourse competence, and strategic competence. I'll be sending you the material. You can go through and be thorough with that, because based on this concept only, communicative language teaching approach has been introduced. And the 3-dimensional approach to teach grammar also is a result of this kind of thinking. So for us to discuss it next time, you need to know these concepts. So go through them and read and come. Okay?
Okay,
Any
ma'am.
questions before we wind up? Any questions before we start? Feel free to talk to her, because I have not seen you, you have not seen me. So there may be a lot of things that you want to actually get clarified or anything. You can talk to me. You can talk to me. And for your exam purpose and assignment purpose, beyond regular studies, I have to actually talk to the institute and talk about the assignment that you are given. And I will talk to you next time about the assignment after discussing it with the institute. And apart from them, you have your written exams. So you collect all the materials. I think your you have access to recording as well, no? You
Yes,
have been
madam.
given
We
access
are
to
getting the
recording.
recordings. We are
So
getting the
regular
recording.
basis, yeah, please study and make sure that you actually develop not only, you get a certificate at the end of the day, not only that, you are actually improving and developing and you are getting more knowledgeable and skills with skill, okay? So that is also important. Anything that you want to tell me about anything that you did not understand or whatever, or getting things to clarified, and it's time. We have 5 minutes.
Madam, this is not about the today's stuff. Madam, will there be any physical lectures, madam, during these 2 months, madam?
Normally, this is an online program, right?
Okay, ma'am. There won't
I
be
don't know. I think these are not questions for me. I think it's the institution. I'm only
Okay.
visiting, right?
All right.
So I actually don't know. I thought that this is online course. Yeah.
All right, madam.
You better check with your coordinator.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions that is regarding my lectures? Because I'm responsible for this module, and if you have anything about the
Ma'am.
assignment, yeah.
Ma'am, in TPR, we didn't talk about this thing, but in the grid, it was there, the grid which you asked us to fill, the
Yeah.
errors in the TPR, errors are
Stress-free. Stress-free.
stress-free. So they
And
are,
they don't particularly talk about errors. Why? Because we are not forcing them to talk. So they don't have to, because of that, they don't have to talk about errors. You can't actually use each and every column is not, row is not there. So you can leave it out because it's not a kind of focus there. Right? Because stress-free, you don't force anything. So when they're ready only, then they will speak. You don't talk about the reading and writing also there. So it's not much applicable there. So you can leave it blank.
they are also, ma'am, most of the time we are using the physical activities, no? So the target language is the medium of teaching. Can we take it like that? Target language is a medium of
Now here, when it comes to direct method, L1 is prohibited.
Yeah.
But when it comes to audiolingual method, use of target language is maximized. Right? But then and there you may use L1, but target language uses to be maximized. Similarly, in TPR also, what is entertained is using target language to teach target language.
Okay, thank you very much.
That is very good. You're asking questions, it shows your interest. And you have understood a lot of things and little things that you need clarification. That is kind of good. So any other question? No. Right. Then shall we stop? Okay, then I'm sending you the materials and make sure that you have access to your recording and you do your regular studies. And next time I will definitely talk to you about your assignments. Okay? Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. God bless you.
Okay.
Madam.